With Radio Algeria International, you will not miss a single major political or economic event. Radio Algeria International, our voice in the world.
This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
Algeria, like all other Muslim nations, are celebrating today Eid al-Fitr in a spiritual atmosphere characterized by mutual aid, which gives this sacred occasion a special dimension within Algerian society. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, has expressed his best wishes to the Algerian people on the occasion of Eid al-Fitr, praising the climate of spirituality, solidarity and mutual aid that marked the holy fasting month of Ramadan. Palestinian citizens in the Gaza Strip have performed Eid al-Fitr prayers on the ruins of mosques destroyed by the Israeli aggression in the shelter schools to which they were displaced and in public squares in the rain and cold weather. Those were the major developments. Now the full news edition. Good afternoon. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, has expressed his best wishes to the Algerian people on the occasion of the festival of Eid al-Fitr, praising the climate of spirituality, solidarity and mutual aid that marked the holy fasting month of Ramadan.
نستقبل إن شاء الله أول أيام عيد الفطر المبارك سائلين الله عز وجل أن يتقبل منا الصيام والقيام وصالح الأعمال. لقد عشنا شهر رمضان هذا العام في جو روحاني متميز وفي طمأنينة المواطن أمام الوفرة والتحكم في الأسعار، حيث أصبح للمواطن خيارات حمته من حسابات أصحاب المصالح الضيقة التي كان رهينا لها للسنوات في مثل هذا الشهر.
President Tebboune also expressed his thanks to charitable retailers, their representatives and all the economic players and partners for their efforts to help people and for the manifestations of mutual aid and solidarity with the people rooted in the very depth of Algerian society. The President also expressed his sincere wishes to the Algerian nationals abroad and to the Palestinian people in occupied Palestine and in war-torn Gaza.
أيتها المواطنات أيها المواطنون، وإذ نحمد الله على هذا الاستقرار فإنني أجدد شكري للتجار الخيرين الرحماء وممثليهم وكل فاعلين والشركاء الاقتصاديين على كل ما بذلوه في ميدان وقوفهم فيه إلى جانب المواطن وفي أجمل صور التكاتف والتضامن مع المواطنين المتأصلين في عمق المجتمع الجزائري. وأجدد لكم ولجاليتنا في الخارج تهاني الخالصة لعيد الفطر المبارك، دون أن ننسى أهلنا في فلسطين المحتلة وغزة الجريحة.
That was the message of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, on the occasion of Eid al-Fitr. President Tebboune has performed the Eid al-Fitr prayer at the Great Mosque of Algiers in an atmosphere of piety and serenity. High-ranking officials of the state, members of the government, and representatives of the Arab and Muslim diplomatic corps accredited to Algeria, as well as a large number of worshippers, also performed the Eid prayer in the religious and civilizational building. After the prayer, President Tebboune was congratulated by senior officials of the state, government ministers and representatives of the diplomatic corps from various Islamic nations. The Eid al-Fitr prayer at the Great Mosque of Algiers, attended by President Tebboune and a host of dignitaries, symbolizes the spirit of unity, solidarity and celebration that characterizes this joyous occasion for Muslims worldwide. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, has received a telephone call from his Tunisian counterpart, Kais Saied, and his Egyptian counterpart, Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, respectively, who offered him their best wishes on the occasion of Eid al-Fitr, wishing him and the Algerian people prosperity and well-being. In return, the President of the Republic thanked his Tunisian and Egyptian counterparts, offering them his best wishes and wishing them and the brotherly Tunisian and Egyptian people further progress and stability. The Speaker of the National People's Assembly, APN, Brahim Boughali, and the Chairman of the Council of the Nation, Saleh Goujil, have extended their best wishes to the Algerian people on the occasion. Mr. Boghali congratulating the Algerian people on the occasion of Eid al-Fitr, as well as the Muslim nation as a whole, which is celebrating this year's festival in sorrow, as many Muslim countries are experiencing increasing suffering. For his part, Mr. Gujil stressed that the joy of the event is incomplete when the people in Gaza and oppressed Palestine continue to suffer the crimes and horrors of brutal aggression encouraged by the partiality and hypocrisy of the West and the unprecedented failure of the international order. On the occasion, the Chief of Staff of the People National Army, Army General Said Chengriha, also extended his wishes to all the people of the People National Army and the personnel on the occasion. Algerians, like all other Muslim nations, are celebrating today Eid al-Fitr in a spiritual atmosphere characterized by mutual aid, which gives this sacred occasion a special dimension within Algerian society. As Esya Bekkar has the details.
From the early hours of dawn, people started heading to the mosques across the country to perform the Eid prayer. On this occasion, the imams called in their sermons for safeguarding the values of solidarity and forgiveness by visiting friends and relatives with the aim of strengthening family ties for their importance in our religion. The Eid prayer was marked by prayers for the Palestinian people who are going through difficult conditions due to the Israeli aggression against the Gaza Strip and all of the Palestinian occupied territories. The imams emphasized that Muslim nations must support and stand by defenseless Palestinians in the face of the ongoing genocide. After the Eid prayer, people started exchanging their best wishes and visits. Meanwhile, Algerian women have always ensured that traditions are perpetuated on this occasion, like henna for children and the preparation of cakes to offer to friends and relatives. Filled with joy and dressed in new clothes, children enjoy Eid al-Fitr by accompanying their elders in visiting their loved ones. Meanwhile, the civil society pay visits to the sick in hospitals and the elderly in senior centers. On this occasion, the different sectors and authorities took special measures to celebrate the Eid festival in the best possible conditions, notably in the sectors of national security, public transport and the post office.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs in the National Community abroad, Ahmed Hattaf, has received a telephone call from his Brazilian counterpart, Mauro Vieira. The talks between the two parties focused mainly on the Palestinian question, in particular the dramatic situation in Gaza due to the military escalation of the Israeli occupation. The two ministers also discussed the recent developments relating to the State of Palestine's application to join the United Nations as a full member on the basis of Algeria's and Brazil's support for this important and decisive step. Palestinian citizens in the Gaza Strip have performed Eid al-Fitr prayers on the ruins of mosques destroyed by the Israeli aggression and the shelter schools to which they were displaced, and in public squares in the rain and cold weather. More in this report with Zaid Wazi.
During its ongoing aggression against the Gaza Strip since October 7th, the Zionist occupation destroyed 229 mosques completely and 297 mosques partially. In Rafah, south of the Gaza Strip, where more than 1 million citizens were displaced, a number of displaced people performed Eid prayers in shelter schools and near displacement tents. Several relief organizations took the initiative to distribute sweets and toys to children in an attempt to put a smile on their faces despite the difficult circumstances. Eid prayers were also held on the ruins of El Farouk Mosque in the city. In Jabalia refugee camp north of the Gaza Strip, a number of citizens performed Eid prayers in public squares in the rain and cold weather. A Wafa correspondent reported that despite the ongoing Israeli aggression against the Gaza Strip for 187 days, citizens are trying as much as possible to bring joy to the hearts of their children and the children of the slain civilians, the wounded and those who were displaced to shelter centers and tents. He added that the majority of children wore normal clothes and were unable to buy Eid clothes due to the difficult conditions imposed by the Zionist aggression and the destruction of markets and shops. In an infinite toll, the number of slain Palestinians in the Gaza Strip rose to more than 33,000, the majority of them children and women, while about 76,000 citizens were injured. Thousands are still missing under the rubble and on the roads, and the occupation prevents ambulances and rescue crews from reaching them.
The Jordanian army has announced the completion of the largest airdrop of humanitarian aid over the Gaza Strip, which has been the target of the Israeli genocidal aggression for over 6 months. According to the Preta news agency, the army described the operation as the largest airdrop operation over the Gaza Strip in 6 months, the initial phase targeting the southern areas of the Palestinian enclave. The Jordanian army also underlined that the humanitarian aid, which included food and other materials donated by the Jordanian Hashemite charitable organization, was intended as a gesture of solidarity with the Palestinian people in the context of the ongoing aggression by the Zionist occupation forces, with the aim of alleviating the particularly difficult conditions facing Palestinians in the enclave during the Eid al-Fitr celebration. France's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Stéphane Séjourné, has said that pressure must be stepped up and perhaps sanctions imposed on the Israeli occupation to get it to open the crossings of humanitarian aid to the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. In a statement to the media, Stéphane Séjourné said that there must be means of pressure, multiple means including sanctions, to allow the passage of humanitarian aid. Human Rights Watch described the starvation used by the Zionists occupying Gaza as a war crime, calling for sanctions against the Israeli officials. An official at Human Rights Watch, Omer Shakir, said the Zionist occupation governments use the famine as a weapon of war and is proving murderous for the children of Gaza. He called on the Zionist entity to put an end to this war crime and to put an end to this suffering and allow humanitarian aid to reach the whole of the Gaza Strip. The United Nations has said that the Israeli occupation is obstructing food distribution in the Gaza Strip more than any other form of humanitarian aid, as Palestine faces up an unprecedented barbaric Israeli aggression. Saïd Bouazi reports.
Jens Lerke said, citing statistics from March, that food convoys that should be going in particular to the north of Gaza, where 70% of the population is facing famine-like conditions, are 3 times more likely to be refused access than other humanitarian convoys. Jens Lerke explained that the arguments put forward by the Zionist entity about the lack of aid distribution in Gaza were empty for several reasons. First of all, the lorries controlled by the Zionist entity are generally only half full. This is a requirement that they have put in place, he said, explaining that once inspected, these trucks are reloaded by the UN at more than half, and that it is therefore normal that the figures never match. Secondly, counting and comparing trucks inspected and aid delivered on a day-to-day basis makes little sense because it does not take into account the delays that occur between these 2 stages, he added. These delays are caused in particular by the opening hours of the crossing points and by the fact that the Zionist entity requires that Egyptian drivers and lorries can never be in the same area at the same time as Palestinian drivers and lorries collecting the goods, he said. The toll of the Zionist genocidal aggression against the Gaza Strip has risen to 33,000 martyrs and around 76,000 wounded since October 7, 2023.
The Spanish government has stressed that the recognition of a Palestinian state was in the geopolitical interest of Europe, reaffirming that it was ready to do so. The Spanish government said that the international community will not be able to help the Palestinian state without recognizing its existence. Let's recall that it recently decided to recognize the Palestinian state by the end of June. And now the Irish Minister of Foreign Affairs, Michael Martin, has said that Ireland is preparing to recognise Palestinian state within the next few weeks. Michael Martin announced his intention to submit to the government a formal proposal on the recognition of the Palestinian state when wider international discussions are completed. He added that without a doubt, the recognition of Palestinian state will take place. And he said that delaying recognition is neither credible nor tenable any longer. Michael Martin added that he had discussed the recognition with other countries involved in peace initiatives over the last 6 months. The special representative of the Secretary General for Colombia ahead of his political mission there, Carlos Ruiz Massieu, told the Security Council that, regrettably, 11 more ex-combatants have been killed since the last report of the Secretary General on Colombia was issued. More in this report by Majid Mila.
Ruiz Massieu said social leaders as well as entire communities, particularly indigenous and Afro-Colombians, still suffer the full impact of persisting violence and the limited presence of state institutions in various regions. He said the council members that Colombia has reached an important juncture in relation to its ambitions to implement the 2016 final peace agreement, as key challenges remain to translate political will into results on the ground.
Colombia has reached an important juncture in relation to its ambitions of implementing the 2016 peace agreement and of advancing its ongoing dialogue initiatives. As the Security Council was able to observe firsthand during its recent visit, there is a deep desire for peace in Colombia that extends from highest levels of government and state institutions across civil society and to vulnerable communities in the regions still afflicted by conflict. The key challenge for transforming that aspiration into reality is to channel the abundant political will and impressive drive of civil society into ever more tangible dividends of peace on the ground. This effort will require Colombians to overcome divisions in an effort that should unite them across the political spectrum based on a common interest in securing a peaceful future. I trust that this Council will echo our calls to encourage all actors in Colombia to redouble their efforts to implement the 2016 peace agreement and to pursue dialogue as a way to further consolidate peace in the country.
Regarding dialogue between the government and the FARC, the special representative said it was essential to build on the progress made so far and to give clear evidence of their will for peace, adding that any hostility against the civilian population sends the opposite message and erodes trust between parties and society, as was evidenced by the condemnable acts of violence against the indigenous population in Cauca, which led to the partial suspension of the ceasefire by the national government.
That's it for our news bulletin. I invite you now to listen to a special program dedicated to Eid al-Fitr and Eid Mubarak from Radio Algeria International to our dear listeners.